Most people know Donald Trump as a billionaire businessman, a former president, or a man who has spent decades under the brightest spotlight in the world. But what if I told you there was a story about him that no one ever expected? One that wasn't about power, politics, or controversy? A cold night, a desperate man, a single request. What happened next wasn't just an act of generosity. It was a lesson that would change everything. The wind howled through the cold New York streets, carrying with it the distant honks of impatient taxi drivers and the hurried footsteps of pedestrians eager to escape the biting chill. The neon glow of street signs flickered against the wet pavement as a lone figure stood motionless outside a grand hotel. His coat was ragged, his shoes tattered, and his hands clutched the edges of his sleeves in a desperate attempt to preserve warmth. Just beyond him, past the revolving doors of gold and glass, was a world he could only dream of. A world where people dined on meals worth more than he had made in months, where the soft hum of jazz and the clinking of glasses filled the air. And then, stepping out of that world and into the real one, was a man everyone in America knew, Donald Trump. The homeless man hesitated. He had never imagined himself speaking to someone so powerful, someone whose name was synonymous with wealth. But tonight, desperation overpowered hesitation. He swallowed his pride, took a deep breath, and stepped forward. "Sir," he said, voice rough from the cold, "could you spare $1?" What happened next would shock everyone who heard the story. Trump paused, his gaze settling on the man before him. There was a brief flicker of something unreadable in his expression. Perhaps curiosity, perhaps something else. The doorman, sensing the moment, stepped forward to usher Trump away, but he raised a hand, stopping him. $1? Trump repeated. His voice, though strong, carried no mockery, only contemplation. The homeless man nodded, eyes downcast. He had seen the expressions before, the disdain, the pity, the hurried excuses. He braced himself for rejection. Instead, Trump reached into his coat pocket, but rather than producing $1, he pulled out a crisp $100 bill. The homeless man's eyes widened. I only asked for $1, sir." Trump smiled, but there was something sharp in his gaze. "You did, but let me ask you something." He folded his arms, the bill still in his hand. "If I give you this, what will you do with it?" The man hesitated. He had spent years on these streets, surviving on scraps, fending off both hunger and judgment. He knew what people assumed about men like him. "I'd get something to eat," he answered honestly. "Maybe find somewhere warm to stay for the night." Trump nodded, considering the answer. "Good," he said simply. Then he reached back into his coat, pulled out a second $100 bill, and held both up. "Now, if I give you this too," he continued, "what would you do tomorrow?" The homeless man's breath hitched. "Tomorrow?" "Yeah," Trump said. "You've got one night covered. What about the next, and the next after that?" The man stared at him, speechless. No one had ever asked him that. Most people either ignored him or threw him pocket change without a second thought. I don't know." Trump nodded again. Then, in a move that caught not just the homeless man, but everyone around them off guard, he gestured to the hotel behind him. "Come with me." The doorman blinked in surprise, but Trump was already moving. With a little choice, the homeless man followed him through the golden doors and into a world unlike any he had seen before. Inside, the lobby glowed with elegance, polished marble floors, chandeliers that shimmered like diamonds, and guests dressed in designer suits and evening gowns. Conversations paused as people noticed the unlikely pair. Trump strode to the front desk, ignoring the stares. "I want a room for my friend here," he told the concierge, sliding his black credit card onto the counter. The homeless man's mouth opened in protest. "Sir, I can't." Trump raised a hand again, silencing him. "Just for one night," he said. "Then tomorrow, we talk." The man could only nod, disbelief written all over his face. The next morning, as sunlight streamed through the window of a hotel room far nicer than anywhere he had ever stayed, the homeless man sat at the edge of the bed, waiting. He didn't know what Trump meant by, "we talk," but something told him this wasn't just about charity. When Trump arrived, he got straight to the point. "Tell me your story," he said, sitting across from him. "How did you end up here?" And so, hesitantly at first, then with growing confidence, the homeless man spoke. He told of lost jobs, of bad luck, of mistakes that had snowballed into a life he never thought he'd have. He spoke of judgmental looks, of hopeless nights, of the aching loneliness that came with being invisible in a city full of people. Trump listened. When the story ended, he leaned forward. "You want a second chance?" The man looked at him unsure. "What do you mean?" "I mean," Trump said, "I can help you, but not by giving you money. I can give you an opportunity, a job, a real shot at getting back on your feet. The question is, are you ready to take it?" The man's eyes filled with something he hadn't felt in years. Hope. What happened next was more than just a story. It was a transformation. The homeless man took the job Trump offered him, working first at one of his properties, then steadily climbing the ladder. With each passing month, he regained what he had lost, not just stability, but dignity. Years later, he would tell the story of how one moment, one choice, had changed everything. And as for Trump, he never spoke of it publicly. No cameras had been rolling, no reporters had been present, but those who witnessed it would never forget. In the end, it was never about the money. It was about a lesson, a reminder that sometimes the greatest gift you can give someone isn't charity, it's belief. Thank you for watching. If this story resonated with you, don't forget to like and share. Subscribe for more inspiring stories, and remember, sometimes all it takes is one unexpected moment to change everything.